Born of a broken man, but not a broken man. Born of a broken man, but not a broken man.
broken man.
Just listening to the Rage Against the Machine song. Best fucking music of all time, in my opinion. It's the music, not that song necessarily, but it's the music that has powered me and funneled my rage, not really rage, but just like this underlying for ever since the mid 90s. And
Yeah, it's shocking to me. When I heard it, I never thought it would like stand the test of time. And 25 years later, I'm still listening to Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, I think so. This isn't necessarily a commentary about me and my father, but I will bring up some examples from that. But I think many men today, they're looking around. Many young men, they're looking around at the older men in their life, and they're seeing men with broken spirits. They're seeing either a man who gave up adventure to be good and be honored, or gave up his honor to just have wild adventure. And the true challenge, the true greatness is in really consciously choosing your adventurous path. Not just doing it out of rebellion and mindless reaction and whatever, and then destroying your life and relationships and things like that. Which plenty of men live out that path of just kind of blind rebellion, right? But end up broken. Very much you can see broken men there. And on the other hand, there's men who, in order to be good and to be honorable, they give up their desire. They give up the adventure they really want to go on. They allow themselves to become domesticated and tamed.
It's not unlike the issues that we've been talking about these days. A lot of men wondering, they want to be in a say committed relationship, whatever that commitment means, and then they have at the same time a sense of adventure, and they think it has to be either or, and if you do it right, you're gonna have both. You can have both a great adventure, very committed relationship, and feel strong honor because of it.
Yeah, and we're trained for goodness from the time that we're kids in our homes. Be a good boy, a good son, a good Christian, Muslim, whatever, a good student, a good employee. And what is it to be good?
A good boyfriend.
What a good boyfriend. What is it to be good?
It's pleasing to whatever the external authority tells you have to be.
Right? To follow the rules
Right.
of someone outside of you. Forget what you desire. Forget what you think is true. Forget the adventure that you're called to. Behave in a way that is pleasing to the others outside of you. And you're trained in it with punishment, reward, and propaganda.
Oh.
From the time that you are very, very small. Even infants these days, the infant comes home from the hospital and it's wailing for its mother in the middle of the night. It's not being a bad kid. It's instinctual. Its mother, it's lived for its entire life of 9 months inside of the womb. And it wakes up and she's not there. Her heartbeat's not there. Her warmth isn't there. Her whatever. And he's like, I need, I have a need for connection. And many parenting methods and ideas about parenting. It's like, no, you need to train that bad infant to be a good infant.
Right.
And get it ready for a life of being good and obedient.
And we're passive aggressive in a way, or aggressive with the love that we give to our children or not. like the way I see parents fuck up a lot of the life of children is to say, I summarize it with the phrase, we love you, so don't disappoint us. We love you, so don't disappoint us. And this whole journey, I see it with so many men that I work with, is trying to please. We gotta please the external authority, mommy or my parents, to get the love. And they bring it in relationships. I gotta please this woman for her to love me, you know? And so we're trained, like you say, to listen to an external authority as our guidance, because we want that love.
And the young kid full of life, he doesn't have those limits, so he just says the truth, and he says what he feels, and he runs this way, and he climbs a tree or whatever.
Runs after girls.
Runs after girls, yeah. Pulls down his pants and takes a pee on the sidewalk. You know, it's but these things are uncomfortable for the parent because it's affecting my image. What are people going to think about me as a parent that I'm allowing my child to just behave in whatever way? I spent a couple of days with some indigenous people in Panama, like way up the river. And when we got there were little girls playing in this raging river, and there was no adults around, and it was like, you know, what's going on here? And the boys and the men were missing from the village the entire day. And it was only after nightfall that the boys came home. They'd been off playing together, hunting, doing whatever. And the men had been off working, hunting, doing whatever they're doing. But there was no sense that, like, we need to, those little girls out playing in the river, those little boys out there, somehow they need to be, they might embarrass the parents, or they might be doing something bad or that doesn't conform.
Right.
It's like all this training for years and years and years. And then you become an adult, right? And you're free to make your life on your own. Now you're like the whipped horse, right? Who's been domesticated, trained, and then is like confronted with, like he's let outside of, finally, for once, without a bridle and a saddle, outside of the fence.
Yes.
And he's like, fuck.
It's like
he no longer trusts his instincts.
Or he is a polar bear in the zoo.
He feels them at all.
He's been in the zoo his whole life, and now he's put in the wild. You know.
Yes.
I remember, because I'm in the business of seduction and relationships. I remember when I was 6 years old, I was at school, and it was this cute girl, Stephanie. If you're watching, Stephanie. And I remember just running after her because I was just so enamored by her. And I'm like, and she would scream, you know, you know, and I would still run after her. And she had this red bonnet, I still remember it, you know. And I would just, it was just...
By the way, that's still my method of picking up girls.
And I would run after her, and I would kiss her on the head, and I still remember her smell, you know. And it was so fantastic, you know. And I remember the next day, because to me, it was beautiful, you know. And I remember the next day, her mom would come. And her mom was also beautiful. I still remember this. And she would tell me, you know, you cannot do that. It's wrong. And I remember, like, the contrast between, like, that felt so right, so fantastic, you know, and she would say it's wrong. And I'm like, I couldn't put it together. I'm like, huh? And it's those things that this training is everywhere, you know.
Yes.
And so
and we start learning to distrust our inner guidance, whether that's our natural desire or our call to adventure or our call to be a hero for our people, you know, the call to honor. And we start, all of our attention becomes on how can I say the right thing in terms of what other people think is right? How can I do the right thing in terms of what other people think is right?
How can I protect my good image?
Yes. And it's, you know, to survive in society, to deal with the threat of punishment and the reward and the shame in society if you act outside of its boundaries. It's very understandable why.
You could even say
why we learn to protect our image.
And you could even say society does a very good job, and people thinking, Yeah, but otherwise society is not going to work. Yeah, you're probably right, but that's not the point. The point is that we stop listening to that internal guidance system, and that there is a lot more value in what that is trying to tell us, and where to go, and what's important to us, what makes us feel alive, what's true, what's virtuous, you know?
I can remember as a boy seeing some of my parents' interactions, and just having the feeling like I want my dad to stand up for himself, you know, and it was just like, it was kind of like, come on, Dad, you know, like, and I was often very disappointed in that.
Wow.
And you know, then I would go and spend time with my grandfathers out west, and they were wild men, you know. They responded to society and to the women in their life and so on differently. And you know, my dad very much, he walked the good path, you know. He got his doctorate, he finished university, he got his doctorate, he started his own business. There's a lot of, you know, heroic things that my dad did, and you know, but he very much walked that path of doing what was right, doing what he was taught was right. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, and I just remember as a boy feeling like, ugh. And my mom, I think, had a much greater sense of adventure, you know. she very much held on to, in fact, she's living by herself on the coast of Panama right now, during Ecuador, right, during coronavirus. And who knows if she's even going to survive, and, you know. So, but my point is that I think a lot of young men today, they look around, whether it's at their fathers or the other men who are trying to guide them and tell them to be responsible, and they're like,
and become like you.
Right. Like, and lose my life force and become domesticated and just walk around trying to please everyone. Again, I'm not saying that this is my father or that this is anyone, you know, it's not necessarily a critique on someone who is a good, responsible father and provider, citizen, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just speaking to this, I'm honoring this yearning that this young man has to want to feel called into manhood, responsibility, with, like, it feels like it's an adventure, and there's also honor there. And often the call to adventure that he gets, the call to a responsibility that he gets, is lacking in adventure, and it's lacking in honor.
Yes.
And so he'll eat, and it's just kind of this external force saying you should, and he'll conform, right, to have a sense of being honorable, or he'll rebel. In either case, you give up one for the other, but you end up with less of both. Like the guy who just rebels, he might get some adventure, but it's not the kind of adventure where he's like, I'm consciously choosing my path. I'm in the unknown. I'm rebelling.
What both do is in reaction to the external authority.
Yes.
And what both don't do is listening to the inner guidance.
And there's, like, I make a distinction between honor as a feeling and being honorable. Because what is it to be honorable? Like, if someone can point to, like, some of my behavior and say, that's not honorable. Well, that says more about you than about me. It says that you're not able to honor my path.
Right.
You know? And, yeah, so this has been like, this is what my life's...
What I see in this, I mean, the more I talk with people, and the more I see their past and their relationship with their parents, the more I see, fuck, I've been really blessed, you know? Not only to have an angel of a mom, but really a father also who was like He's taking care of shit, you know. And my grandfather, on his father, was way more like, my father was angry with him because he was so domesticated by his mom, you know. So, but my father was a rebel. He's still a rebel his whole life. He's, you know, he has a girlfriend now, and she tries to domesticate him, and there's a giving in there as well. But he's still a rebel. He's still like, he has this very strong sense of like, you know, and it's great, you know. It's great that I have seen that he was really like the pater familias, he is. He's the guy, you know. So I'm very blessed by that. But what I see with, and I think is interesting, is that society trains you, and short term it seems like a great solution. Short term, it seems that to choose comfort and to protect your image is a great way to live together with people. But what we don't know is long term.
And I don't think most people would say that that's what they're trying to do.
Yes.
But in effect, that's how we tend to make a lot of our decisions. Yeah, go ahead.
And short term, it seems good for survival, but long term, if you feel that yearning of like something is off, it's because you've been ignoring that internal guidance system and the comfort and the protection of self-image.
The call to honor and the call to adventure.
Yeah, it really comes with suffering. That's what's interesting, like a slow rising suffering of not answering the call, of denying your inner guidance system, of choosing comfort and choosing self-image, and it's killing you.
Yeah, because you can be as good as you want to be by other people's standards, and still you look in the mirror and you're like, you know that you've compromised,
right?
Or
you feel it,
or you can rebel and, you know, be on that path, and then look in the mirror and you also know you've compromised, and with that comes great suffering. And honor is the opposite of suffering. There was in March 2007, I did a Vision Force boot camp, and there was a woman from the Middle East who was there. She and her family had just recently come from the Middle East. And after this event, she asked me, she said, you know, will you talk to my son? Her son was, I think, 17 at the time. And she was really like worried. He's on the wrong path. He talks about being violent. He's angry. Like I'm really worried about him. You know, I don't know if he was talking about suicide and stuff at the time. I was reluctant to do so because, you know, because I could anyway. So and he's like fucking shit's fucked up. Sometimes I just want to take a gun and kill a bunch of people and whatever, and he's talking to me about his life and his life there and everything, and I'm looking out and I can see what he's talking about, and I can understand why he's angry. You know, the invitation that society is making to him is one that's far beneath this yearning. You know, he doesn't want to be made to give up his soul, his aliveness, you know, and he sees so much of it as bullshit and compromise, and he doesn't want to go along with it. And it's, you know, and a lot of men would rather even take their own life than say yes to that, you know. Like, fuck this, you know. I'm either, like, I'm not going along with that, or it can drive you to, you know, kill others. At least there's some adventure there. At least there's some, I'm standing up in some way. And so
but both are reacting to an external authority, both the conforming and the rebellion. So what's the alternative path?
There is none.
We're all doomed.
Yeah, so it's answer the call, you know. You have to answer the call from within, which is perhaps easier said than done, you know, but that's the very thing, you know. In the way of answering the call to adventure is fear and all of the voices and training and everything saying, no, it's not safe, don't go,
you can't do it,
you shouldn't,
No woman will accept it. I can't be in a committed relationship and have a sense of adventure, because they won't accept it.
Or it's, you walk that path and it's not the straight and narrow path of your religion, or it's not the path that your parents have carved out for you. They want you to be a lawyer, a doctor or something, but you've got a calling to be an artist or musician or whatever it is, right? That's the call to adventure. And honor can very much come with answering the call to adventure. And adventure can very much come with answering the call to honor. Like the call to honor it's like love. It's you have this feeling inside to stand for something in the face of it all. Like the heart has no limits. The heart is not afraid. It's your mind that wants to say, well, this might happen, but the heart just has the feeling. It's like this wild horse. So if you follow this path of honor, you're going to get taken on an adventure. You're going to get taken on a grand adventure. And if you follow the call to adventure, instead of listening to the voice of fear and everything else, you're going to have the honor of
Yes.
being the one who stood for that in the face of everything else. So very much they go together.
But what I think is key in here is really start listening to that inner guidance that's there. It's there. You're born with it. The things you resonate with, the things that make you feel alive, make you come alive, the things that have value and meaning, and you know it when you're doing something that's aligned with it. You know that it's right. And so I think the big challenge is to start listening to that voice, because the training has been to not listen to that.
Yes.
And I was talking with a guy yesterday, and I could pinpoint the instances where he's listening to that voice, and even in the way he talks about it, you can hear him light up.
Yes.
And I said, that's it.
Yes.
That's what you need to listen
That aliveness.
to. That aliveness. And I need
yes.
more of that, because there's trust. He talked about, I said, did you think the girl likes you at that point? And just the way he says, yes, she liked me. It's the inner guidance of that moment too that said, she likes me. I can feel it, And it's that voice that's always there, that knows. Your body has knowledge. That's so hard to listen to, but you know it. It's that same voice that is telling you right now, something is off. Something is not quite right. I can't put my finger on it, but something is off in the way I'm living. And it's that voice. It's that voice you listen to, and it will never lead you astray. It will lead you to adventure. It will lead you to honor. And it's just cultivating the way you listen to that voice and honor it, celebrate it, and make it sing louder.
And there's a danger for young men right at, as they reach the teen years, let's say 14 to 21. There's a real danger, because it's in those years that they can really form their identity. Mm-hmm. Who am I in the world as a man? Who am I? And they'll get feedback from society about who they are. They'll make choices that will define them. They'll form beliefs that then shape the rest of their life. And I was very clear about this when I heard about my youngest brother, who was still at home, and my mom was in her journey. She was kind of done with being the good Mormon mother, and she was on an adventure of entrepreneurship and self-discovery. And she wasn't really there that much. He was very much on his own. He had no elder, no male, no strong male who he looked up to, who really gave a fuck about him in his immediate surroundings. And he was getting in trouble. He was hanging out with kids who were like shooting BB guns at school buses, and and then he's going to school and continually being told he's a bad kid. And after a while, enough conflict like that, the easy thing is to just adopt it, believe it. Okay, this is who I am. And then and it carves out, you can carve out your whole future. And I just saw it as like, this is urgent. Brother, get out of there. come live with me. You know, your sense of adventure is great. You want adventure, you want life, and come with me, and I'll invite you to the adventure of entrepreneurship and, you know, everything else. But I very much view that as it's a critical juncture, because guys will make up what the world is about and who they are, and then they'll head on a path that they might not wake up to until 20 years later.
Right.
And they're like, what have I done with my life? Who have I become? And then they can be living in such shame and guilt and powerlessness that, man, they might never fully get their aliveness back.
Well, I don't know that, because I really believe in, like, it's true that it's a juncture, but I do see also that if men have that yearning and, like, something is off, that they could completely change the direction of their life from one day to the other, just by making a stand, just saying, okay, I can sense something is off. I can see that I've been listening to this external authority, going towards comfort and self-image, but I hear this voice, I feel it, and I'm going to start listening to that voice. You know, I'm going to answer that call, and you could change your life from one day to the other, and you have
and yet it's not that simple.
Yes, you have to keep doing it.
It's not that simple at all. And when you have a lifetime of training,
yes,
you know, and I think Hans, you're someone who has had very, in a lot of ways, a lot less of that external training. But for some guys,
right,
they'll, you know, I'm not saying they can never change. I'm absolutely saying they can. But I also want to emphasize, like, there's a fucking mountain to climb. And so face, like, yeah, and that might be your call to adventure. Like, if you're a man who's lost your aliveness, you've lost your honor, you've given up adventure, you're going to have to fight. That's your battle, to get it back and hunt that aliveness,
yes,
hunt that honor, hunt that call to
climb
adventure.
the mountain, fight the demons, fight the dragons.
That is your war. It's a war. It's not as simple as, you know, just making one decision. Once it's, especially when it's gone to that point. When you're a lot younger, yes, it's very easy to, because you have a lot less years of programming for conformity.
They used to have dragons, and now the guys have dragons. You know, so many powers that try to push you towards comfort, and you have to fight back, fight the dragons. I want to put a call for anyone who feels compelled by this, and I do want to say that I'm here. I'm assuming Michael is here too. If you want to answer the call, you know, we want to be allies. We want to stand and fight beside you. I want guys who
we are allies. We are your allies.
Because to me also, like, doing these things with an ally like Michael, it makes it a lot easier. It's as simple as becoming a morning person. Alone, it's very hard for me. Something so simple as getting up early. With an ally, a lot easier.
I like the distinction, like, between friends and allies. A friend is someone who's going to keep you comfortable, you know? Like, don't face this mountain that you haven't been facing your whole life. It's okay. Let's go have a beer,
right,
you know?
How's it with your girlfriend? Not so good. Have a beer.
Right. Just sit and mourn together, and, you know, or talk about the good old days. But an ally calls you to your greatness, to that man, to face the man that you can be, and he calls you out. Yes, and there's very much an art form to being an ally for another man. Yeah. But that's, you know, real brotherhood.
I like what you said, that I said we can be your ally, but you said we are your ally. That's how we're going to show up with you. That's how we show up for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
I think most men, they don't have real brothers and allies in this world. And it's also, you know, in at least in America, it's become this thing that, you know, oh, men hanging out with just other men. There's something wrong about that. That's dangerous. What are they doing together? What are they talking about? What are they getting up to? You know, men need that sacred space with other men, and for very good reason. And it's, and you know, men getting together with other men are dangerous. Definitely can be dangerous. They could get together and say, you know what? Fuck this government. Fuck this society. Let's burn it down and start something new. And sometimes that's exactly what's called for. Yes. And sometimes it's just like a man needs a revolution in his own life.
Right.
The government that's in his head needs to be overthrown. And to me, that's what real brothers and allies will do, is they will stand for that man.
I think that's a good ending. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks all for watching. Next time,
Clint.
I'm going to try to answer questions because I can't see them right now. But if you have any questions, you can always put them, and then I'll see it in the chat, and we'll use the end of the Facebook Live to answer some. See you tomorrow.